Καλησπέρα σας. Good afternoon to everybody. Σας καλωσορίζω όλους στο τελικό συνέδριο του προγράμματος STEADY. I welcome you all to the Final Multiplier Event, the international conference of the STEADY project. The STEADY project stands for Sport as a tool for empowerment of disabled and displaced youth. It is an Erasmus Plus sport program, and through our last 3 years, we have tried to bring persons with a disability through Paralympic sport into our society. We have a 2-day event. Today, Monday the 30th, we will be here at the Amphitheatre of the Technopolis of the city of Athens. And we have our conference. And tomorrow on the 31st at the new Retorts at Technopolis city, we will have a networking event and a meet and greet event. This event is an opportunity to open the dialogue on increasing sports participation of displaced youth with disabilities by promoting volunteering and equal access of refugees and migrants with disabilities to organized Paralympic sports and grassroots sports. The discussion will be open to the public to take part and submit views and ideas. Apart from the participants that are here, we would like also to welcome all the participants that are online through Zoom, and they are joining us online all over the world. Before we start our conference, I would like to ask the president of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee to give us a welcome remark. Παρακαλώ τον πρόεδρο της Ελληνικής Παραλυμπιακής Επιτροπής για έναν σύντομο χαιρετισμό.
Εκ μέρους της Ελληνικής Παραλυμπιακής Επιτροπής, καλωσορίζω όλους τους καλεσμένους, ιδιαιτέρως όλους τους συνεδρούς από όλα τα κράτη που είμαστε μαζί, που τρέχουμε το πρόγραμμα αυτό. Θέλω να πω ότι τρέχοντας αυτό το πρόγραμμα βοηθήθηκαν αρκετοί αθλητές με αναπηρία πρόσφυγες. Η αλήθεια είναι ότι θα θέλαμε ακόμη περισσότερους. Ήταν μια εμπειρία η οποία είχε πάρα πολλές δυσκολίες, αλλά το τρέξαμε με μεγάλη θέρμη. Γενικότερα, εμείς, σαν Ελληνική Παραλυμπιακή Επιτροπή, θέλουμε να τρέχουμε ευρωπαϊκά προγράμματα. Αυτό μας βοηθάει και να κάνουμε περισσότερες δράσεις, αλλά και να γινόμαστε καλύτεροι. Και ευελπιστούμε στο μέλλον να τρέξουμε και άλλα προγράμματα με πιο πολλά θέματα, τα οποία θα βοηθήσουν να αναπτυχθεί ο χώρος μας σε περισσότερα επίπεδα. Σας ευχαριστώ για την παρουσία σας. Καλή επιτυχία στο συνέδριο.
Let me do a quick translation. Our president welcomed everybody and is very happy to have you all here. He outlined that it's very important for the Hellenic Paralympic Committee to run European programs in order to have the opportunity as Paralympic Committee to extend our reach and do much more than we could do without them. For us, it's a very good opportunity that you were here. We had a very good experience in the morning with our Paralympic event outside. So for us, it's a perfect opportunity to welcome you all and to have the opportunity to be with you in the next following hours. Thank you. We are also awaiting the governor of Attica region. He informed us that he will be a little bit late. So I would like to ask the General Secretary for Social Policy, Mr. Georgios Stamatis, to come and give us a short address.
Okay. Good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank you that you give me the opportunity to have a privilege to be here with us. As you know, Mr. President of the Paralympic Committee, I think you accept me as a member of your community years now, and when I have tried to be a part of your movement. And now I try to have a trip in Pescara to see European blind football championship, and for me it's a great honor that you are a member of your community, and from my position as a State Secretary for Social Solidarity to help you not only to give a new era in your movement and about your capacity, but to be as a member strong fan in your job. Dear friends from other countries, I would like to say that recently we have a new legal framework about the personal assistance for people with disabilities, and for us it's a great opportunity to give to people with disabilities, and not only to Greek citizens and of course refugees who live in our country, to give the opportunity to have a personal assistant that is driving them to independent living. In this period, we have a protocol with Ministry of Migration, and now we have an opportunity in the region of Attica to have first independent living for refugees and migrants with disabilities. And for this position, I think we are in these two steps. State, Greece, show to the people that has a policy about people with disabilities, and not only about the citizens, but in your refugees. I think now we are positioned to support you more about how sport empowerment for refugees in Greece starts, of course, with this program, and of course we accept the results of this program, and how we, as a state, to empowerment more about social inclusion for refugees that they live in our country. So I believe, and before I left this floor, and thanks for your invitation, I think refugees with disabilities has the right place to live in Greece, and I think that through sport, social inclusion is better than when we have any kind of sport. I think we are in a good position right now to empower you and to give the opportunity not only through sport to have a social inclusion, but of course at the end of the day to find jobs about refugees that are living in Greece. So thanks again for your invitation, and when I have the opportunity every day, I'm with you and support you in every steps you can. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the General Secretary for Social Inclusion, Mr. Georgios Stamatis, and I would like now to ask, I've seen that Mr. Patoulis has arrived, so it's a good opportunity maybe that we can ask you right away to come to the stand. Κύριε Πατούλη, άμα θέλετε, μπορείτε να έρθετε κατευθείαν να μας χαιρετήσετε την εκδήλωσή μας. Ναι, άμα θέλετε. Έχετε αυτό το προνόμιο. Without further ado.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Θα ζητήσω την κατανόηση από όλους σας για την αδυναμία να βρίσκομαι την ώρα που έπρεπε, αλλά οι καταστάσεις, παρακαλώ. Φίλιππε. Δεν ακούει ο Φίλιππος. Να πω λοιπόν ότι είναι μεγάλη τιμή σήμερα να βρίσκομαι εδώ κοντά σας. Προφανώς είμαστε όλοι γνώριμοι λίγο πολύ, βρισκόμαστε και με τον Γενικό Γραμματέα και με τους Προέδρους και τους αγωνιζόμενους στα παραολυμπιακά αγωνίσματα και τους θεωρούμε εμείς αγωνιστές ήρωες της ζωής. Και θα έλεγα, αγαπητέ Πρόεδρε της Ελληνικής Παραολυμπιακής Επιτροπής Γιώργο Καπελάκη και εκλεκτοί συμμετέχοντες στο φεστιβάλ, και στο προλογικό πανόραμα. Θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω καταρχάς για την τιμή που μου κάνετε να με καλέσετε και εμένα εδώ. Και βέβαια θα έλεγα ότι τα βραβεία ανήκουν σε εσάς, προφανώς πρωτίστως, για την υπέρβαση, την δύναμη, αλλά και το άσβεστο, θα έλεγα, κουράγιο όλων των αγωνιζομένων ατόμων με αναπηρία, που φωτίζει ως φάρος της πόλης, αλλά και τα γήπεδα και τους γειτονιές μας. Αλλά για την προφανώς διαρκή προσπάθεια η οποία γίνεται για να βελτιώσετε τις επιδόσεις των παραολυμπιακών αγωνισμάτων και δείχνει τον δρόμο προς την πρόοδο και την ανθεκτικότητα των κοινωνιών μας εν μέσω πολλών κρίσεων που μέσα από αυτές εσείς συνεχίζετε με άκνο τρόπο να δημιουργείτε το αγωνιστικό γίγνεσθε και την ευγενή άμυλα. Χαιρετίζω τη διεξαγωγή αυτού του σημαντικού συνεδρίου. Αύξηση της αθλητικής συμμετοχής εκτοπισμένων νέων με αναπηρία, μέσω της προώθησης της ίσης πρόσβασης προσφύγων και μεταναστών με αναπηρία στα οργανωμένα παραολυμπιακά αθλήματα και το μαζικό αθλητισμό. Μια πρωτοβουλία που προφανώς ενδυναμώνει τις κοινωνίες συμμετοχής όπως είναι η Αττική μας και την ίδια την αξία του αθλητισμού στην Ευρώπη εν μέσω της ενσωμάτωσης των νέων προσφύγων με αναπηρία. Αποτελεί αρχή, μέριμνα και ενσυναίσθηση για τη διοίκηση της περιφέρειας της Αττικής το γεγονός ότι οι πρόσφυγες με αναπηρία κινδυνεύουν συχνά να παραγωνιστούν σε κάθε πτυχή της ανθρωπιστικής βοήθειας, στην πρόσβαση σε πληροφορίες για την καθημερινότητα αλλά και για την επιβίωσή τους, στην παιδεία αλλά και στις υπηρεσίες υγείας. Και είναι σαφές ότι η σχέση μεταξύ αναπηρίας και αναγκαστικής μετακίνησης είναι περίπλοκη. Μπορεί η αναπηρία να είναι συνέπεια όλων των συγκρούσεων και του πολέμου στις χώρες προέλευσης, συνέπεια της ίδιας της εμπειρίας της αναγκαστικής μετανάστευσης, αλλά και τα ψυχοσωματικά συνέπεια μιας δύσβατης προσπάθειας για ένταξη και ενσωμάτωση. Είναι λοιπόν μια πρόκληση που προκαλεί την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση και τα κράτη-μέλη να αναλάβουν τη δική τους ευθύνη, προφανώς και τη δική τους δράση, προτάσσοντας τον αθλητισμό ως νησίδα υγείας και ευεξίας, νησίδα κοινωνικής μέριμνας, την νησίδα της ενδυνάμωσης και εκπαίδευσης, της ίδιας της αξίας της κοινωνικής συμμετοχής. Για την περιφέρεια Αττικής, μια τέτοια πρωτοβουλία είναι έμπρακτη απόδειξη πώς νοούμε στην Αττική τον ίδιο τον πολιτισμό. Είναι η αντίστροφη της εικόνας της εξευτελιστικής εργαλειοποίησης των μεταναστών που παρατηρούμε στα διεθνή σύνορα και δυστυχώς εφιστάμεθα και εμείς σαν Ελλάδα σε υπερβάλλουσα αναλογία προς την υπόλοιπη Ευρώπη. Και ειλικρινά, ως φανατικός θα έλεγα οπαδός των αξιών του παραολυμπιακού κινήματος, και αυτό δεν το λέμε μόνο στα λόγια, προσπαθούμε να το κάνουμε και σε πράξεις, πιστεύω ότι ο αθλητισμός για τα άτομα με αναπηρία είναι το πολύτιμο αποτύπωμα που μπορεί να εμπνεύσει τις απαραίτητες αλλαγές, να σπάσει τα στερεότυπα, να αναδείξει την ανθρώπινη δύναμη. Πόσο μάλλον όταν ο αθλητισμός για τα άτομα με αναπηρία είναι απόδειξη συμπερίληψης και ενσωμάτωσης με την ίση πρόσβαση μεταναστών αλλά και μειονοτήτων. Όπως γνωρίζετε ίσως, έχω τη χαρά να προσμένω και εγώ μαζί σας την ολοκλήρωση του Ολυμπιακού Αθλητικού Κέντρου στη Ραφίνα και μάλιστα σήμερα από το ΣΥΠΟΘΑ πέρασαν και κάποιες τελικές αποφάσεις. Πηγαίνουμε με γοργό ρυθμό, κύριε Γενικέ, στο να μπορέσουμε όλοι μαζί να το χαρούμε, όχι μόνο στην ολοκλήρωσή του, αλλά από τα εγγένειά του, τα οποία πολύ σύντομα θα ξεκινήσουν. Ένα μεγαλεπίβολο στόχος και όραμα για τη διοίκησή μας, θα έλεγα για την ίδια την πολιτεία, για τον ίδιο τον Πρωθυπουργό, με προϋπολογισμό 36 εκατομμύρια ευρώ που συμπεριλαμβάνονται στο σχεδιασμό του ΠΕΠ Αττικής 21-27. Και μια μικρή ένδειξη της βαρύτητας που εμείς δίνουμε στη στρατηγική μας για την ενίσχυση του αθλητισμού όλων των ατόμων με αναπηρία, χωρίς αποκλεισμούς, και για την προώθηση στην Αττική των Ολυμπιακών Αγώνων και Αθλημάτων. Αξιότιμοι σύνεδροι, κύριε Πρόεδρε, πιστεύω ότι για τη σοβαρή αυτή προσπάθεια της ένταξης των μειονοτήτων και των μεταναστών στα Ολυμπιακά αγωνίσματα μπορούμε να πράξουμε πολλά ως κοινωνία και να δώσουμε το παράδειγμα διεθνώς ως Ελλάδα, αναδεικνύοντας τις αξίες του Ολυμπιακού πνεύματος και κάνοντας πράξη την διαπολιτισμική αποδοχή. Εκτιμώ ότι υπάρχει ανάγκη για ενίσχυση της διεπιστημονικής συνεργασίας για αυτό το στόχο μεταξύ αθλητικών οργανώσεων και των τοπικών οργανώσεων που εργάζονται για τους πρόσφυγες, καθώς και των αθλητικών συλλόγων που σχετίζονται για τους πρόσφυγες και τις μειονότητες. Τα δίκτυα αυτά θα μπορούσαν περαιτέρω να ενισχυθούν με πιο ενεργή ιατρική και υγειονομική υποστήριξη από πλευράς της πολιτείας. Από τη δική μας πλευρά προσφερόμαστε για κάτι τέτοιο στα πλαίσια των δικών μας ευθυνών και δυνατοτήτων. Και σε αυτό το βήμα δηλώνω παρόν να παράσω όποια δυνατή βοήθεια, όχι μόνο ως γιατρός προφανώς, αλλά με τον θεσμικό μου ρόλο και ως πρόεδρος του Ιατρικού Συλλόγου Αθηνών. Υπάρχει πολύ έντονη γνώση, εμπειρία, προφανώς διάθεση σε όλη την Ευρώπη σχετικά με τη συμμετοχή αθλητών, οι οποίοι φέρουν μια σειρά αναπηριών. Ωστόσο, οι ανάγκες, οι πεποιθήσεις και οι προσπάθειες για περαιτέρω βελτίωση εξακολουθούν να υπάρχουν. Γι' αυτό είναι σημαντικό να αξιοποιούμε αυτή την ευρωπαϊκή αλλά και τη διεθνή γνώση μέσα από διαρκώς αναβαθμισμένα επιστημονικά προγράμματα και δίκτυα που τέτοιες πρωτοβουλίες γεννούν. Σε όλα αυτά δεσμεύομαι ότι η Αττική σταθερά μπορεί να παρέχει την αιγίδα, τη δική μας και την αρρωγή μας και με πολύ χαρά και όπου χρειάζεται σε συνεργασία με το Υπουργείο Μετανάστευσης και προσωπικά με τον Γενικό Γραμματέα να εργαστούμε υπέρ της συμμετοχής και ενάντια στον αποκλεισμό των αποσπασμένων νέων με αναπηρίες στο ευρωπαϊκό αθλητισμό. Πιστεύοντας βαθιά ότι η αναπηρία είναι ικανότητα, δυνατότητα, πρόκληση και ευκαιρία. Το όραμα του Standing Project, όπως διαπιστώνω, εμπλουτίζει το ίδιο το αθλητικό περιβάλλον, το κοινωνικό και εν γέννη πολιτισμικό περιβάλλον της κοινωνίας μας. Και όπως τα πρότυπα, τα ιδάλματα του παραλυμπικού κινήματος, οι Έλληνες παραλυμπιονίκες μας διδάσκουν το άκαπτο θάρρος και το κουράγιο στους δυνατούς, αλλά και στους αδυνάτους της κοινωνίας μας. Έτσι, οφείλουμε να αναδείξουμε ως Ελλάδα και τα πρότυπα των μεταναστών πρωταθλητών και παραλυμπιονικών ενάντια στην θυματοποίηση στερεότυπα των προσφύγων, με την ορμή που ο αθλητισμός αντιστρέφει τον πόνο, βελτιώνει την ποιότητα της ζωής και ανοίγει τους νέους ορίζοντες στις ζωές των ανθρώπων. Και με την υπέρβαση της θέλησης που όλοι εσείς έτσι κι αλλιώς καθημερινά αποδεικνύεται. Θα ήθελα λοιπόν κλείνοντας να σας ευχαριστήσω και πάλι για την πρόσκληση, να σας πω ότι τα λόγια που είπα σήμερα δεν είναι λόγια της στιγμής, είναι από καρδιάς και σκέψεις μέσα από βούληση και πράξη. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
I would like to thank the governor of Attica region and would like to ask him to stay here with us because we're going to give an award to him for his support for the Paralympic movement in Greece. Παρακαλώ να μείνετε μαζί μας, κύριε Περιφερειάρχα, να δώσουμε ένα βραβείο για τη στήριξη που παρέχετε στην Ελληνική Παραλυμπιακή Επιτροπή και στον παραλυμπιακό αθλητισμό. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό που σας έχουμε κοντά μας και μας βοηθάτε και αυτό είναι νομίζω ένα στοιχείο πάρα πολύ σημαντικό.
Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.
Αγάπη μου.
Ευχαριστούμε. I will do a very quick translation of what the governor of the Attica region said. He lined out how important the STEADY project is and about the responsibility of the state to support refugees and migrants with a disability, to include them with sport into the society. The region supports generally the Paralympic Committee, but they also have done a lot of things, and lately they are constructing a Paralympic sports complex in the area of Rafina. And recently the governor also signed the further completion of this sports complex. He lined out that it is very important to include persons with a disability through sport into the society, that Paralympic sport offers a unique opportunity to do this, and he is supporting, as the state of Greece and as the governor of the Attica region, he supports all of these moves, and he also lined out that he will, as a doctor as he is, support and offer his knowledge into this, the general actions that the Paralympic Committee does, so that we can use Paralympic sport to include into society. For us, this is very important, and it's also important to line out that the Paralympic Committee does all this work, and together with agencies of our state, we will try to use this and include persons and migrants and refugees with a disability into our society. I would like to thank the governor of the Attica region for his very good words, and I would like to ask now the General Secretary of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, Mr. Christos Tsamousis, to come and give a welcome remark.
Dear President, dear Governor of Attica region, Mr. George Patoulis, dear friend, dear General Secretary of Minister of Social Solidarity, dear partners, dear General Secretary of Serbia Paralympic Committee, welcome you, dear guests, Paralympic family, Paralympic athletes. It's a great honor being here with you today, welcoming you on behalf of the Hellenic Paralympic Final Conference of Study Project. And it's a great pleasure to be here on occasion of this conference. It's our obligation to find ways to make a more inclusive society in our countries, in our cities, in our communities, and Study Project is a great opportunity to do so, since its goal is to empower refugees with disabilities through sport. The strength of Paralympic movement and its supporters working together to provide people with disabilities the best platform to shine and change their lives. This is the power of sports, to transform lives and communities. The motto of Paralympic movement is change starts with sport. Change starts with sports and cooperation, I would say. And from tomorrow on, the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, with your cooperation, will be start once again to find ways inspiring people with disabilities change their lives and the world with sports. Thank you, and successful conference.
I would like to thank the General Secretary of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, and we have received also opening remarks from the Secretary of Sports of Greece, of Mr. Yorgos Mavrotas. Unfortunately, he cannot be with us because he's abroad, so he has sent us a quick message, a video message that we would like to see now.
Hi. First of all, I would like to thank the Hellenic Paralympic Committee for the invitation, and I'm really sorry that obligations abroad forced me not to be with you. It is true that in Greece, the the Paralympic athletes have managed to become the most prominent ambassadors of the disability movement. Their achievements in sport have helped significantly to break down the stereotypes. In recent decades, sport, from a tool of supremacy and domination, has been transformed to a tool of integration, respect, and solidarity. Sport breaks down the walls of discrimination. As Nelson Mandela said in his famous speech, sport has the power to change the world back in 2000. Exactly this is the meaning of the STEADY program, that you actively participate, the integration of displaced young people with disabilities through participation in Paralympic sports. Integration in practice, where the Paralympic community embraces those young people, offering them a new way to look in life. In the General Secretariat of Sport, we will be your teammates in this very remarkable effort that highlights the true meaning of sport, namely non-discrimination, equal opportunities, and solidarity. Congratulations once again, and we will be waiting the outcomes of the STEADY program with great interest. I wish you all the best for a successful conference. Thank you.
Would like to thank the General State Secretary of Sport, Mr. Yorgos Marvotas, for his remarks. And now we will come to the presentation of the program. The STEADY project is a program that is very important, and I would like to ask the Director of Sport and Education of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, Mr. Vasilis Kalivas, to come and present the program to us.
Hello everybody, it's a great honor to be here with you, and it's a very important day for us. After 3 years and more due to the COVID pandemic extension period, to be able to be here with you and present the STEADY project outcomes and conclusions, although it's not already done, since the official period ends 1 month later. But we are in a very good position right now to have some solid conclusions about what we have done. And this is what we are going to do now. I will give you an introductory presentation of the STEADY project, how it began, very few words, and what were the objectives and what we have done. And then I will pass the floor to our great partners. And each of them will present to you the part of the project that has been implemented by their side. And I would like to inform you that the agenda after this presentation have a very interesting talk with some of the actual protagonists of the project, the athletes, the refugee athletes that have participated in this project with us. And they will be here with you and answer your questions and give you a real experience out of this project. So, so the STEADY project, μπορώ να χρησιμοποιήσω αυτό. The STEADY project was a sequel of projects that we have been running at the Hellenic Paralympic Committee since 2016, actually. And as some of the speakers described before, we thought that sports can be a very powerful tool to change lives, and especially parasport. So, how was STEADY project born? We all remember a very brief introduction. We all remember what happened in Europe back in 2015. There was a massive refugee crisis due to the war and all the conflicts that were happening in the Middle East area. And at that time, nobody could avoid the reality that came out of the sudden in Europe and in our countries. And the big numbers of people from the Middle East coming to Europe due to this conflict. So that was something that we could not ignore and avoid. And we felt in the Paralympic Committee that there was a need for action from our side because it was our mission and our role at the Hellenic Paralympic Committee is using sport as a tool to include people with disabilities, to include people in society, to empower people. And we thought that we had the great tool in our hands to implement for this problem that was there. So we were very happy to suggest and propose an idea to the IPC and the Agitos Foundation about doing something for refugees with disabilities and find ways to empower them through parasports. We were very happy that this call for action from our side found support from the IPC and the Agitos Foundation, and we actively started searching for refugees with disabilities in Greece. We created structures to support refugees with a disability, and we created networks of support for all this mission, for all this project. So this is basically how it started back in 2016. And we started this project. Sorry for this. Something. So we thought that this could be a multiple-purpose project. It could serve empowerment of refugees. It could serve social inclusion of refugees. It would be a powerful tool not only for refugees but for the society of Greece to educate the society of Greece about the Paralympic movement and about Paralympic development. So this is. Κάτι υπάρχει πρόβλημα υπάρχει. Okay. Μπορείτε να τα ανοίξετε όλη αυτή την διαφάνεια, εσείς. So basically the objectives of this project was to find refugees with disabilities, introduce them in the Paralympic movement, offer them parasports experience, meet our Greek Paralympians, get inspired by them, give them real opportunities for training, and the essence for us was to, the ones of them that were more motivated and more talented maybe, to have the opportunity to take part in competitions nationally and internationally. So that was basically what we did all these 3 years. The program ran from 2016 until 2009. We had some very positive and exciting results. More than 25 refugees with disabilities in Greece were introduced to parasports. 3 of them participated in the international competitions, including Paralympic Games. We were very happy to see that 2 out of the 6 refugee athletes that participated in Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games were coming from our project here in Greece. And we had more to give them opportunities to compete. And the project, after these 3 years, was mature to give something more than that. I mean, these 3 years, we started in 2016. We invited European Paralympic committees to join us, and we had 7 of them joining us in these 3 years. And then we thought that we should do something more about that, give something more than that. So in 2019, we decided to go on with a steady project. We submitted a proposal to the European Committee, and it was approved. And at that point, the project was very, very ready, let's say, to go to the next step. So besides educate society, besides social inclusion, besides Paralympic development and empowerment of individuals, refugees with disabilities, we thought that we should go further. And what was this extra results that we wanted to create was summarized in the objectives of the study project. So the plan was to disseminate what we did. The plan was to inspire, to create synergies in European countries about using parasport as a tool for empowerment and for inclusion of the refugees with disabilities. So the objectives were to develop a national network of promoting equal opportunities of young migrants and minorities with disabilities in sport, involve refugees with disabilities to a greater extent in the promotion of sport for all. It was not about competition anymore only, it was more about sports for all movement, involve social sector and national human rights institutions to a greater extent in combating discrimination in sport, promote the cooperation in running awareness-raising activities, very important for us to raise awareness in European societies, and authorize these bodies to participate in legal actions brought to improve access to sport for all. A major goal or objective of study project is to recommend some policy recommendations to entities, to social sector, to political parties about how to create policy for including refugees with disabilities. Jose Campos is here from IPC, later one partner of us, to tell you more about these results. Αυτό έχει πρόβλημα. So, some of the pilot actions we ran during the study project, αυτό αλλάζει μόνο του. Okay. Was to locate and engage displaced youth with disabilities in disability sports programs, to participate in the study project with with disabled youth with disabilities, displaced youth with disabilities in the European Week of Sports and Steady Action Week that was organized in 2022, to implement grassroots actions for DIDS, to train ambassadors from voluntary and sports organizations to use sports as a tool of empowerment of DIDS, and to present the ethnic communities the opportunities for DIDS to interact and join sport activities, to organize roundtables, workshops that promoted the opening and the coordination of innovation programs to local and national authorities and donors, and to create media project for disseminating the study project objectives. So, as I told you before, policy recommendation was a major objective, and later our partner will explain more about that to you. And from what we did as Hellenic Paralympic Committee, a few words during the study project, is that we participated in the pilot actions with including refugees with disabilities in our sports programs. Our objective was to include at least 5 refugees with disabilities in sports programs we had in Greece. We were very pleased to tell you that we have way more than 5. As I told you before, we had created a background of development in this section, and many athletes with disabilities found opportunities to train and compete with our athletes together or take part in national competitions. Another major activity we ran during the study project was to participate in the Study Action Weeks and European Weeks of Sport. European Week of Sport is the Be Active initiative that runs around Europe every year, and our purpose was to put some of our beneficiaries into these activities and raise awareness in this way. So we did some major activities, like we put study project in a major Be Active activity of visiting the Parthenon and Acropolis last summer, and that created a lot of awareness in Greece about the project. It gained a lot of visibility, and also we took beneficiaries with and without disabilities, refugees from refugee camps, kids, adults, youth, and they gave them the opportunity to watch trainings and competitions of para-sports in Greece, which was also an activity that created a lot of awareness. Also, we were very pleased at that moment to tell you that through our partnerships and through our channels of communication and social stakeholders and sports stakeholders in Greece and nationally, we were able to organize some quite strong, I would say, dissemination activities. We would split them in pre-COVID era and after COVID, post-COVID era. Study project was presented during the General Assembly of the International Paralympic Committee in front of like 140 NPCs around the world. We want to believe that this gave motivation to many NPCs around the world to deal with the reality of refugees and disabilities and their inclusion in sports. We also, after the COVID era, post-COVID era, we organized a very strong, I would say, webinar with participation of about 200 participants from almost 30 countries around the world last year. And this was also a very strong dissemination activity of the project. And through these activities that the Hellenic Paralympic Committee organized, our role to the positive outcome of the study project has been very fruitful, I would say, and we are very happy and satisfied from this. I will stop for now. I will pass the floor to the partners of the project so they will also tell to you what their participation was towards the objectives and to meet the expectations of the project. And I want to thank you and hope to see you again at the kickoff meeting of Study 2 project, because we think positive, we think high, and we believe that after the completion of this project, we will be able to submit another proposal to the European Committee and have a sequel of Study project, because we strongly believe that the needs of the reality never stop, and the recent and the current war in Ukraine is a proof to that. I mean, a new refugee crisis is already getting born, and so we think that there are many things that we can do to improve what we have done and help towards this direction. Thank you very much for that, and we will have the chance to speak later.
I would like to thank Vasilis Kalivas. And as you already know, the STEADY project has 9 partners from 7 countries. And I would like to ask the representative and project manager of STEADY of our first partner from Italy, from GEA Cooperativa. I would like to ask Alice Bruni to come forward to make her presentation.
Hello? Yeah. So thanks everybody, thanks Sakis, thanks Vasilis, and thanks everybody for having us here. For us it's a big pleasure to participate in this project. We were not involved since the very beginning, but we replaced another Italian partner, but we are working since the first year of the project. And our cooperative, I don't know if you can send the presentation. We mainly work with people, migrants and refugees since 2004. We start working with families, especially from Africa, which is the main country, long before the refugee crisis. And we work mainly with public services. We help them to include this group of people in the educational service, in the health service. And recently we start working also in the sport area. And yeah, this is our main goal, and so we found out that sport was a super powerful tool to do this, and we don't do ourselves, but we involve local sport clubs. We really believe in the cooperation, in the local cooperation, so we put the expertise on working with migrants and refugees, and we involve the local sport clubs, grassroots sport clubs or national sport club, trying to increase the awareness and their capacity to include refugees people and migrants people. And so, yeah, that's what we do. So we really foster a relation and cooperation with also cultural, but mainly sport association in order to do so. And this is why the STEADY project for us has proven to be very important, because first of all, we have some projects running with refugees and with mental problem and with trauma due to the migration process and the exploitation that they went through during the migration process. But so far, we never really considered the problem of disability in sports. So this project for us was a great opportunity to consider the specific target group and to put together cooperation between sport clubs and health organization and social organization like us to deal with their specific needs. These are just few of the networks. So yeah, it's a regional organization, but we are really believe in international cooperation or national cooperation. So we are part of Oxfam Italia, which is an NGO, part of the International Oxfam Federation. We are member of FAIR, which is the European Network Against Racism in Football. We are part of ALDA, which is the European Association for Local Democracy, and this national consortium. So just to show that our way of work, our approach has always been a networking approach and a cooperation approach. And in the study project, yeah, thanks. In the study project, our main contribution were these three main actions. Of course, we took part in the whole project, but mainly we put together this baseline study that was very challenging for us because it was the first time that we tried to assess this kind of topic. So it wasn't easy, I have to say, but it was very interesting because it helped us get in contact with the National Paralympic Committee. That was not hard, it was not easy to reach at first, but then they joined the project. And also all the sport federation, we tried to while asking them the data, at least at the same moment, we raise awareness on this specific target group. And the aim of the study, of course, it was done in all the countries involved in the project, was to understand the actual situation of the status of participation, inclusion, and exclusion of this specific target in sport. It helped the partner to address these barriers, and most of all to acknowledge that there is a lack of data and a lack of knowledge about this topic, but also at the same time it gave us the opportunity to increase the networking. And I put a link on the presentation. I don't know if you can click it, but anyway, if you want to, the baseline study is in our website, studyproject.eu, and there is the whole study, which is quite long, and also a summary. And I'd say the main features of this, the main feedback from this study, mainly were a lack of data again, but at the same time, also a lack of cooperation between all these stakeholders that can do a lot for this target, which is the sport area, but also the social inclusion area. So each of these actors really needs to cooperate together if we want to give a chance of this to this target group to play sport, because they need a specific approach that, and for this is essential multi-stakeholder cooperation. And we also find out, as we try to have at least a gender approach in our activity, so we found out that refugee women with disability are also, they suffer from an intersectional discrimination, so we try to do some specific activities for them, and we saw that there is a lack of attention and awareness to this, about this specific group. And the baseline study, mainly all the activities that we have done to reach the data. Thank you. We reached this data through some data and statistics survey that weren't many. So we decided to go for the focus groups that were very interesting activities. So all partners organization did 1 or 2 focus group, and putting together actors from the sport area, actors from the social inclusion area, experts from refugees, experts from parasport. So our first focus group, for example, we put together the Regional Paralympic Committee. That was the first time that approached a project about refugees. So they had no knowledge at all. And we had no knowledge at all in parasport. So it was very good to sit together on a table and discuss what can we do to support this target group through sport. And then we also collect some case studies. So some, I wouldn't say best practice because there's nothing test, but at least some experience that try to include refugees in sport and people with disabilities in sport, and try to put together the best of these two approaches to build a specific approach for this target group. And then what we've done we run some inclusive sports events, so something like similar of what we've done this morning here for the kids. So we organize some events that put together athletes with disability, athletes without disability, refugees and not refugees, to engage, inform, and include through parasport. This is the main event that we managed to organize. It wasn't easy because with the COVID, we just had to organize everything at the last second because we could do it, but we are happy that we succeed. So last July, in a very big festival that is in Padua, near Venice, it's a cultural and sports festival. It's called Sherwood Festival. And so we organize a tournament of volleyball for people with for blind people and people without disability. And we had some table tennis demonstration and some other soccer demonstration. So it was a nice approach, I have to say, because these are just a few of the pictures of these activities. Because on that activities, we didn't have many refugees, I have to say, because we couldn't really have the time to spread the information, because we know that with this target group, you need to go one by one and really involve them. For COVID, we did not have the time, so we had few refugees at the event. But then the Regional Paralympic Committee gave us this guide that they realized in 2020. It's a guide of parasport in the region. And what we done after this event, we went in different organizations that work with refugees to spread this guide. And we see now that after many months, some refugees with some disability are contacting us to be in contact with some parasport club. So we managed to reach some goals, even with the COVID difficulties. And we organized also some free sport activities for women refugees, because especially in the event before, we had no women refugees at all. So the few refugees that came were all men. As you know, it's harder to include women for a lot of barriers that we all know, I'm sure. So we organized some free sport activities in a park for them. And some of these refugees women came with the children, and one of the kids, for example, had some disability, and she had no idea. She was from Nigeria, and she had no idea of parasport, so it was still a chance to spread the knowledge of parasport. And we participate again in the Steady Action Week, like Vasilis showed for Greece, and we organize this walk through the city, so a walk or bike that was accessible to everybody, so people with wheelchair or people without disability, to help them discover the neighborhood. And this was organized together with a local sport club, which is called Polisportiva San Precario, another local social organization. So the main objective was to spread awareness and cooperation again between social inclusion organization and sport organization and refugees organization. And then we realized some interviews that I won't show you because we didn't translate in English yet, but we will. And basically our young journalists from another project, we try to put together more projects because that's what we try to do to build the path. And so these young journalists went to refugees, from women refugees or young refugees or men refugees from different countries, asking to them what was sport for them. And it's interesting because all of them say that sport is a way to feel included in the society they are in. And it's interesting that the only woman from Nigeria, she was the only one that still couldn't have any opportunity to do sport because of the children, because of the impossibility also from the other people of their community to promote her participation in sport. But through another project, we managed to include her. So it is nice to see how sport affects in a different way all these people. And yeah, I put maybe the main interesting thing that came out. So as you see, our mixed approach allowed us to involve not only refugees, but people from Italy as well that never played. For example, the deaf people volleyball team have never played with people without disability. It was the first time for them. So we really see how to work with refugees with disability. It seems like a very narrow target group, but that allows us to reach a much wider group. And so we were very happy to take part in this project, and definitely now that we start finding the way to reach this target group, we would like to go on. And also, before coming here, we had a quick call with the National Paralympic Committee of Italy, with Francesca Perna, which is the referent of the educational program, that took part in one round table that we done, and they would like to participate a bit more if we have a follow-up project. So I'd say that's a good result. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alice. This was very interesting. And now we go from a partner from a neighboring country, Italy, to a partner from another neighboring country. I would like to ask Emilian Metodiev, the project manager for the study project from Bulgaria, from Futura, to come and share with us his presentation.
Hello everybody. First of all, I want to thank to host the organization of Hellenic Paralympic Committee for the invitation to participate in this great project, and it was for us very useful to participate. Our organization is registered in Bulgaria, in Sofia. You can see our main structure as idea and activities is connected with social sport, which includes work with unprivileged people and people with different positions that are in risk of social exclusions and also in real social exclusion. Unfortunately, in Bulgaria, like in many other countries, this is a serious problem, and we try to affiliate in local and international level in order to help to make this change. When we speak about projects, we used to think about terms, conditions, but what happens during study project show that it passes some restrictions. This project passes over some restrictions, and its meaning, value, and good practice is significant now and maybe in the future, because thematics with the refugee and migrant politics and migrant cases is more and more actual, unfortunately. That's why we have to think, we as societies, we have to think more and more about adequate and sustainable models to make this process effective and useful. And hopefully sport can play a vital role in this. So about the project goals, I want to stress out that we totally try to cover the original project goals and to implement in our activities. You can see, of course, not all, but the main, I think, project goals. And the key highlights of the project. Actually, you can see that there are a lot of activities for these 3 years. Initially 2, but after this they became 3 years. And I can say that we try to do all the activities. Of course, we had a lot of difficulties during this time, but this is the situation globally, not only in our country. So this is some pictures from our activities that we succeeded to do last year in September and August. during the pilot action activities and during the Steady Action Week. Okay, about barriers and challenges, you can see, but mainly this is the instability. Actually, many people that are running from their troubles, their final destination is not Bulgaria, because there are countries with more developed social systems. Shortly. The other thing is, the other thing is limited access, because refugee centers are not so open to cooperate by different reasons, and we try to work more individually with some representatives of Afghanistan and Syria, for example. The other thing is that it's not so easy topic to talk, but it's cultural differences. You can see what we faced. Sorry. The other thing is popularity. Again, as in many other countries, sport is not totally admitted as a case for social improvement. So you can see there are too many challenges to face to improve, both for migrants and both for the hosting societies. There are too many work to be done in this area, I think. And the last thing is pandemic. I think it's not necessary to comment that it was difficult for every initiatives and every organizations to do whatever. So, okay, I try to be short, and but of course, if any of you wants to receive some other information about the activities or for our work, we are online. Our organization is open for any other opportunities, and of course for study too. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilian. This was a very nice short presentation. And now we will try to communicate with a partner that is not here, the representative who will do the presentation. We will have now the Centro Social de Sotelo from Portugal, and Renata Martins, who is connected with us via Zoom. So can we have the Zoom link with Renata?
Good afternoon. I don't know if you are able to hear me and see me, but I believe so. First of all, I would like to send greetings from Portugal in my personal name and in the name of Centro Social de Sotelo. And we will do a brief presentation that will be focused on our experience, our global experience of the study project. And I will share my screen with you so you can see the presentation. Okay. Who are we? Centro Social de Sotelo. Okay. Centro Social de Sotelo is a non-profit organization in Portugal with 110 workers that is 47 years old, localities of Gondomar, Porto and Matosinhos in the northern area of Portugal, and we provide early childhood education services support to the elderly, and community intervention projects for socially vulnerable groups. Our services benefit approximately 3,500 people per year. Our mission is meeting the legitimate needs and expectations of the community and promoting equality, participation, and solidarity. And we have some core values that are very important for our intervention, which are solidarity, cooperation, participation, co-responsibility, respect for the difference, and equal opportunity for everyone. In the spirit of the values and mission of Centro Social de Sotelo, we accepted the challenge that was proposed by the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, and we became partners in the study project. As an organization, our motivation to be part of this consortium of partners of study was deeply connected with our intervention to promote social inclusion of disabled young people, which faces significant obstacles in our country, and also our organization and the most part of the local stakeholders have no significant tools to deal with refugees, migrants, and intercultural issues. So, as an organization, we integrated this project seeking for knowledge and aiming contact with good practices in this field of intervention. We will focus our presentation on CSS experience in implementing the study project. Thus, it is essential to observe some topics: the Portuguese context in the areas of the adapted sports and inclusion of refugees, migrants, and other minorities, the implementation of the study project, especially the pilot action that we developed through this process, also the stakeholders and the lessons that we have learned from the study project and its applicability in the future. It's very important to share with you some key characteristics of the Portuguese context. Portugal is involved in the international cooperation agreements for the integration of refugees. However, compared to other countries, it does not host or integrate a significant number of refugees. In 2018, for example, Portugal received only 1,190 asylum requests, but the refugee status was granted only to 66 people. In 2019, with the exponential increase in the number of refugees and the consequent humanitarian crisis experienced in other UA countries, the Portuguese government fostered its efforts to receive a higher number of refugees and to meet the goals that were defined for Portugal at international level. So we are a bit far from the other countries in terms of numbers. Portugal offers reinstallation and relocation programs to refugees, and they benefit from financial and social support of up to 18 months, and it is expected that in this time frame, the individuals become autonomous. There are several government agencies involved in managing this issue. Although there are guidelines and programs, the support system for refugees is essentially developed by NGOs and therefore more dependent on local and organizational factors, and it is reflected in a minor cohesion at the national level. So our system to support refugees is very complex and dispersed. In Portugal, we have also found that we had insufficient programs and policies on adapted sport. There is a low investment of financial, material, and human resources for the development of this area. There are no programs or organizations that specifically promote the practice of adapted sports by refugees, And also, we don't have no reliable statistical data on the number of refugees with disability who are involved in sports. We have identified only one program for people with refugee status promoted by the Portuguese Olympic Committee, but this program does not include people with disabilities. This was the scenario we found at the end of 2019 when we prepared a baseline study that is part of the recommendations manual developed by Study Project. We can conclude in this way that the Portuguese context still has a significant barriers to the social integration of refugees through sports, and that's why Study became such an important project in our context. Next, we will reflect on the implementation of the Study project in the Portuguese context. Throughout the project, the team was frequently confronted with an essential question. In Portugal, is there already a connection between the world of adapted sport and the support system for young refugees or migrants with disabilities? This was our big question throughout the project, because we are far away from what is happening in other partners countries like Greece. Through the project, we experienced several challenges in access to project target group, and we highlight the fact of lack of official information or credible information on the number of refugees with disabilities and their inclusion in adapted sport services. And also, we verified that there is a big disconnection between social services that provide support to refugees and sport organizations. But we also found some opportunities through this work. And the Study project allowed us to have some interesting experiences. Given the Portuguese refugee sport system and lack of responses in the area of adapted sports for this target group, the Study team needed to create linkage between both areas, seeking to find creative strategies to link these two worlds and overcome different challenges. We truly believe that it was probably the major opportunity of the project, and we highlight some opportunities. One is to build a network of partners from both the social and sports fields. Also, Study allows us to promote the reflection on the practice of adapted sports as a tool to social inclusion of refugees. And also, it allowed us to promote several actions to raise awareness of different stakeholders and target groups, namely through the Study Action Week, where we worked with children, disabled young adults, and adults in general, to put them together to think about this topic. Our pilot action was to build a media project, and all the characteristics, challenges, and opportunities of the Portuguese context are reflected on the implementation of our pilot action. A media project which objective was to raise awareness on the project main topics. Our challenge as a team was to build a cohesive narrative for the Portuguese context that can raise awareness on the practice of adapted sports and social inclusion of young disabled refugees, but also connect these topics to our national context. We produced a mini documentary involving athletes and coaches, describing the challenges and the opportunities that we are facing on our context and highlighting the power of sports as a social inclusion tool. This video is also available at the project's YouTube channel and it's available for you to check. And at last, it is very important to talk about the lessons we learned, the impact of this project in our country, and also about the future. So, what are we going to do now with all the knowledge we built through study? For us, the study project assumed an essential role in our local, regional, and national context, as it activated reflection of various themes that in Portugal are not yet connected, but whose integration is fundamental for the creation of new responses for social inclusion of a particularly vulnerable group, refugees with disabilities. Study project created the necessary conditions for a group of stakeholders that in Portugal do not usually intersect to connect in favor of a greater cause. In addition to the impact in terms of reflection on the social inclusion of refugees with disabilities through sport, the connection created between these stakeholders, NGOs, sport organizations that promote adapted sport, public bodies, will have an impact on other distinct areas with an impact on inclusion from various vulnerable audiences. The study project also allowed the creation of articulation mechanisms between these stakeholders who are available to continue working together through advocacy strategies using the outputs and deliverables produced through the project, like the manual of recommendations or the handbook. At the organizational level, this project allowed Centro Social de Sotelo to extend the implementation of its mission to a new target group. We are currently one of the executing entities of a project promoted by the municipality of Gondomar, another project. This project aims to ensure the social inclusion of refugees, migrants, and Roma people through intercultural mediation. The outputs and deliverables of the study project will be a fundamental tool for the execution of this new project. In this way, the transnational knowledge produced by the project will continue to be implemented at the local level, ensuring that the project maintains the impact after the Erasmus Plus program funding ends. So I would like to finish my presentation with a special thanks to the Hellenic Paralympic Committee and to all the study partners who allowed us to have a very good experience of growing knowledge, and also helped us as an organization and as a country to build our capacity to improve the services we are providing to the target group.
Thank you very much, Renata. This was Renata Martins from the Centro Social de Sotelo in Portugal. Thank you for your presentation and for all your contribution. And I would like now to ask the General Secretary of the Serbian Paralympic Committee, who is also a partner with us in this project, Bojan Jacimovic, to come and offer us his presentation.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today with you. I enjoyed this event. We had this wonderful presentation of the sport with the kids, and I think this is excellent kind of stop point in the project. Hopefully this project will survive. This shouldn't be the end. This is, in my opinion, up to the International Paralympic Committee. So I am excuse me. Okay. Paralympic Committee of Serbia is a national umbrella organization for the sports of persons with disability recognized by Serbian law on sport. Our main business is top-level sports, but we are glad and proud to be participating in projects such as STEADY. For us, importance of this project is huge because it is the first project of this kind in Serbia. When we were gathering, the good practices for the project, we didn't have anything to contribute because this is actually the first one that is dealing with the youngsters with disability who are refugees or displaced persons. And we had only one other project in Serbia that dealt with sports for the refugees. Also, it was in the partnership between Serbian Olympic and Greek Olympic committees and some other organizations, also supported by Erasmus Plus program of European Union. Our local partners, we had two main local partners. One was Commissariat for Refugees and Migrations of the Republic of Serbia. They are governing around 30 camps for the refugees. And the other one is Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Serbia, which is one in Serbia, very small organization, but for us, they were a very valuable partner because actually among all the organizations in Serbia who are taking care and supporting refugees, they were only one that had their own sport venue in which refugees practice sports on a regular basis. So this organization gave us the data that we needed, and actually all outcomes that we had in our project in Serbia are based on the insights that we have cooperating with these two organizations. So key facts about and context of the situation in Serbia. Serbia is a transit country for the refugees, and most of them, they're trying to stay in Serbia as short as possible. According to official data, the number of refugees at one moment never exceeded 15,000, and it is usually between 2,000 and 3,000 of the refugees. Also, there are a kind of illegal flow of the refugees in Serbia, and we tried to contact the organization who are supporting unofficial gathering point of the refugees, but they were not willing too much to cooperate with us for some reason. Main obstacles that we had during implementation of the project was, of course, COVID. And also one of the difficulties, because for all this time, we didn't find any single person, refugee with disability, who would participate in our sport programs. So during the communication, our communication with our local partners, with their management and volunteers and their team, we found out that the most important obstacles that they faced are actually lack of information, language and cultural barriers, and gender issues among the refugees and displaced persons. Having in mind that there are not so many refugees who are staying in Serbia, our key finding is that, and our idea is that we need to produce a sort of documents that could channel these people and to help them to address the right addresses in their destination countries in which they could then practice the sports. We think that these documents should be translated in English, they're speaking. And also we were thinking about the points in which these documents should be delivered to them. so official and also unofficial points of their gathering that we found, as well as some camps which are on the borders between Serbia and the neighboring countries, you know, which are on the path of the refugees to their destination countries. So sustainability of this project, in our opinion, this project is a great success. And I'm amazed how you guys from Paralympic Committee of Greece and International Paralympic Committee, you found out this small niche, which in my opinion is very important. Having in mind that refugees are very vulnerable group, and refugees with disability is the most vulnerable group in the group. According to my knowledge, there is no such documents as this that are produced during the project. This is the manual and the handbook, and I'm really grateful to our partners. Our contribution in producing these documents was not big, because we had a very small experience regarding these issues. And actually, only person we find in Serbia is this Mr. Salih Saliu. He came to compete in one official athletic competition in Serbia with the rest of a Nigerian team, and then all of them disappeared, making us very worried. You know, he was left by his colleagues in very difficult conditions. He's French-speaking person, and French is not among the favorite languages in Serbia. So still, he's training. He's not competing. He has diabetes, but with few Serbian words, he is actually practicing some sports. We believe that this manual and this handbook should give us a very good basis for further development of these issues, actually of this part, how to include the persons with disability who are displaced or who are refugees into the destination communities. So this is a very short presentation, and I would like really to thanks again to our partners who put big effort, you know, to produce these documents, which are, in my opinion, very important, and their importance will be shown in the future, unfortunately. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, our dear friend Bojan. It was a nice presentation, very important for us. We have a lot of countries participating in this project, and each country offers a different perspective, and there are different problems, but the core of all of this is that we are dealing with the same problem, and we are trying to include similar people into society, and this is very important. We have now our second partner who is not able to be here. We have Play and Train and Silvana Mestre. I hope she is with us. Can we check if Silvana is with us?
Yeah.
Hello, Silvana?
Yeah, I am here.
Yes, you have the floor, Silvana.
Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I want to apologize for not being able to be here in Athens, but due to some medical conditions, we were unable to be there. Well, I don't have a presentation, but I am going to just give for 5 minutes our vision. Play and Train is a non-profit association involved in sport education and development from recreational to elite level for people with disabilities. Mainly our philosophy is to create awareness and clear understanding of people with a disability and their challenges in our society. Is to help people with disabilities expand their way of life positively whether alone or with their families, and to help athletes with a disability to find employment. Our aim when we were asked to enter the STEADY project was to open sports to refugees in Spain and mainly in the autonomy of Catalonia. The first thing that was in the project was to do a full study of the situation of refugees in Spain. Our astonishment was the lack of any number regarding people with a disability. I mean, they are out of the statistics. When we approached the different organizations that were related, the different organizations that they work with refugees and that they are related to the government, they were unable to answer our questions, nor they were really interested in the project. We were really astonished, but nevertheless, we tried and we did continue trying to search for any small possibility. Briefing, we are really, really far away, as Portugal has said, from other countries. We have very similar problems as they have. Although my surprise was when we contact different organizations as the Red Cross, who take the refugees, or other organizations, the main problem was we cannot accept that you work with the refugees because it's a question of insurance. Well, the truth is that it has been very difficult, but there are very positive outcomes from all this negativity. And the knowledge that we have acquired with STEADY mainly is bringing us to create a line of advocacy in order to change and to make the government change inside these laws, that they don't let the NGOs or small organizations as us to work with refugees. We think a lot of opportunities are lost in our country, and we need to change that. We work with a lot of migrants, but migrants in Spain, they get the papers the very moment they enter the country. So this has no problem. But with refugees, and we have a lot of refugees in the Canary Islands, in all the south of Spain, even in Catalonia, we cannot, we are unable to work with them. In any case, I think this is an incredible project. This is a project that needs to continue, and honestly, I will, from Play and Trail, we will advocacy for this project to continue in the future, because I think there is lots of lost opportunities there. Even with the National Paralympic Committee, because we in Play and Train, we are in charge of the development of the sport in the Paralympic Committee, and we have problems to access refugees with disabilities. I want to take the opportunity to thank all the partners, and mainly I want to thank the Hellenic Paralympic Committee for all the troubles that they have found with us. But it has not been easy for us. but I think we need to work, and I will bring to the Hellenic Paralympic Committee those organizations that I think they need to enter and work in a steady project too, because I think that from there, maybe we can access other small organizations as us. Thank you very much for everything. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Silvana. This was Silvana Mestre from Play and Train in Spain. And I would like now to move on to our next partner. This is VIDIC, the Vienna Institute for International Dialogue and Cooperation. And we have with us today Kurt Wachter. And Kurt, you have the floor. Let me help you.
Thank you, Sakis. Yes, as you mentioned, my name is Kurt Wachter. So I'm from the Vienna Institute for International Dialogue and Cooperation. We are based, yes, in Vienna, Austria, and me personally, I'm around in the field of using sport to fight discrimination for now almost 25 years, and with our Fair Play initiative, the initiative for diversity and anti-discrimination in sport, we are celebrating this year the 25th birthday. And this and our main focus so far was mainly on fighting racism in football. We heard it from our Italian colleagues, the FAIR Network, which we founded in Vienna in 1999. We work on sexism, inclusion of women and girls with a refugee background, on homophobia and LGBTI issues. But the topic of inclusion of disabled people, people with impairments of different kinds, this was the first project. And this has been, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, a very interesting journey for us as an organization, because it was almost like an eye-opener that we had to really look at the issues, also relate to stakeholders in the field of parasport and disability sport. And what we did at the beginning was having a round table, getting together different stakeholders from the Paralympic side, from the parasport, and I learned the Paralympic movement and the parasport movement are not always on the same page. We had, for example, later on also a collaboration with the Federal Disability Sport Organization, and we involved also partners like the Ministry for Sport, and most importantly, probably also the refugee organizations and refugee sport organizations in Austria, where we have a strong and a big Afghan community. I learned that it's the biggest Afghan community outside Afghanistan if you take the number of inhabitants, and we found it very important to sit down and to see what are we talking about, who is the target group, what are the issues at stake. Yes, and from the project side, we organized, we were kind of responsible to develop a curriculum Okay, I don't know what is. Yes, with the colleagues from Equal Society from Greece. So the idea was to work with workshop facilitators, trainers, how to raise the issue of the social inclusion of young refugees with disabilities, and taking it from that more theoretical point, we also try to include it into our activities, our regular activities. Okay, I don't know. Okay, this is yes. For example, we organized training seminars. We have a pool of like 20 workshop facilitators who probably never heard about disability sport, and we try to work with them. How can we address the topic? How can we go to mainstream sport organizations and work with them, and also how to work with young people on that issue. Yes, we had 2 training seminars with our workshop facilitators, but I think what was yes, more kind of rewarding from my point of view was an activity we had in last year in summer, where we organized together with the Austrian Federal Association for Disability Sport. We were partnering on a week for disabled refugees, a sports week in the countryside in Styria, in south of Vienna, and this was really kind of a lucky coincidence that the Austrian Disability Sport Federation took up the issue and said this is something we never looked at. We know that in sport in general, I think we have a problem of representation. Sport is run by mainly male, white, whatever, indigenous people. I mean, the background is not diverse. It's not, sport is not always a reflection of society, and maybe that's probably it's just a fact that also parasport and Paralympic sport is not representative if you talk about ethnic minorities, about Roma, about migrants, about refugees. And I think this project really was very crucial to point at this issue that yes, how can we work together, not just disability sport, but also refugee organizations, mainstream sport organizations. How can we work together to make parasport and Paralympic sport more accessible, more open for everybody in society? And this was, yes, at this sports week, luckily we had a group, a diverse group with backgrounds from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Somalia, Kosovo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and with a range of impairments, autism, deaf young people, wheelchair, etc. And yes, again, I just have to reiterate, it was a very kind of great experience for us and our also workshop leaders to be involved in that and to see how does it work with a diverse group like this, what is important if you deliver workshops for young people. So it was a big learning experience. Yes, and we had also attached to this a train the trainers workshop with the coaches from the Austrian Disability Sport Federation, and we talked about why are families with refugee families, why don't they send their kids to parasport? And of course, some issues came up, like there's an immense need of trust. You need to know the people, you have to have personal contacts, you need to, and then there's an issue of also, I think, within the refugee communities, that they probably don't see sport as number one. There are other issues like social issues, issues of how to survive. And also when we sat down with the Afghan organizations, I think there's also a stereotype about disability. It's not just in the mainstream society, but in the migrant and refugee communities as well. Yes, okay. Then this was, yes, and this is probably even my last image. I don't want to take your time. We also had, in the European Week of Sport last year, 2021, we cooperated with, it's called Run for Life. It's a running event in Vienna, in a big park, organized by an organization called Asylkoordination. So they fight for the right to seek refuge, to seek or to accept refugees. And we worked with a group of 17 young refugees who participated in the run, and we organized some kind of information booth and some information elements at this run. And it's not the big one; it's just like 500 people. But I think this was also a rewarding experience to promote the study project and the inclusion of people with different backgrounds and abilities and cultures and so on. And yes, this is just probably my last one. So I think, the main lesson we learned is partnership. We need to bring everybody on board to move forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Thank you. Just leave it on the table. So let's come to our next partner. We saw that how important it is to include society, and we have now the project manager of Equal Society, our partner from Greece, Dimitris Dodis. He will do a short, I hope, presentation because we are behind in time, so you will be quick. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Dimitris Dodis. No worries. Equal Society is a Greek NGO established in 2010. We focus our projects and programs in the fields of social inclusion, social protection, education. And for us, the study project was actually the first major effort and engagement in the field of sport and social inclusion. Usually, quality control and evaluation is the most boring presentation from all. After all the presentations that we heard from the other partners, I would like to say that quality control was an integral part of the project methodology. The aim was to ensure that the project will achieve its objectives, and to this end, we try to measure and evaluate the quality of the project's processes, outputs, and impacts. That was a process that started at the very first day of the project implementation, and usually it lasts until the end of the project. The tools that we used is mainly the project meetings and the evaluation forms. And based on this evidence, we will produce, after the end of the final conference, the final evaluation report. An overall assessment of the project implementation. All activities were implemented. However, in some cases, adaptations to the original work plan and time plan were necessary. Main challenges, as everybody said earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to delays in the implementation of some activities. Silvana earlier also said about the difficulties in the implementation of the project activities. So in order to deal with these, the project requested and were granted an extension for 6 months. Okay. Main results achieved: the steady network established, the dissemination of the project achieved, and this was one of the most, let's say, easy, but also the most difficult results to be achieved. I would like to say here that the online seminar, which was organized in 2021 in May, was extremely successful because there were more than 200 participants, and I can tell you that 234, if I remember correctly the number, viewed the webinar. The baseline study, the recommendations, manual, and the handbook were the 3 main intellectual outputs that were produced. Also, the partners implemented pilot action activities and participated in European Week of Sport. About the evaluation, we designed 3 phases of evaluation: an intermediate, where we distributed questionnaires to the partners in order to assess the social impact of the project at that time. Evaluation of the level and quality of the activities. We distributed questionnaires to the project partners a month ago. And the overall evaluation of the project will be done after the end of this final conference, where we will send a questionnaire, online questionnaire, to all participants in this final conference. And we kindly ask you to fill in and submit to us. About the intermediate evaluation, these are the 5 most important aspects that the partners highlighted. They acquired more knowledge and skills with regard to international cooperation, more expertise in the subject matter, new contacts and relations, strengthened their strategic planning, and change of attitudes and beliefs regarding the role of sports as a means of social inclusion. For the evaluation of the activities, we used, again, a questionnaire, taking into account 4 criteria: project management performance, communication, dissemination, and sustainability. Overall, the evaluation was positive for the majority of the aspects of project management and implementation. However, all partners highlighted the fact that COVID-19 pandemic resulted in some delays. As I told you earlier, after the end of the final conference, we will send you via email questionnaires so that we can evaluate the whole project and, of course, this today's event. The evaluation report will summarize the quality assurance process and assessment, as well as the results of the SRO evaluation, so that we can see what is actually the social impact of the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dimitris, for being brief and concise. And this brings us to the last but not least partner, one of our most important partners, I believe. We have with us today Jose Cabo, who is Senior Director, Senior Manager in the Agitos Foundation and also the IPC membership program. He offered very valuable knowledge and know-how on disability and para sports, and he's here with us today to explain and present about their contribution in the study project. Wait till the screen. Is it green? Yeah. Green. You can go.
Oh, hello? Okay, good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Sakis and the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, and I joined all the thanks of the rest of the partners. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm being told that I'm the last one because my presentation is actually the longest one. It's about an hour. So I was told that I'm going to be in the door, so nobody can leave until I finish. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's going to be short, I hope. And but before I start with the presentation, well, I'd like to know a little bit more about the expertise of this room. So I'd like to know, raise your hand if you're an expert on sport. On a sport. Okay, 4, 5, 6. On parasport? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 11. Okay, who is an expert in social inclusion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, who's an expert on refugees? 2. Okay, so who is an expert on sport, parasport, social inclusion, and refugees? No one. Okay, interesting. All right, good to know. That will be valuable for something that I explain later. So I'm from the Gitos Foundation. The Gitos Foundation is the foundation of the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee. So basically what we do is to offer funding and projects and opportunities for our member organizations. We have 210 plus, meaning all the national Paralympic committees around the world, international federation, and organization of sport for disabled. I'm not going to explain much longer because I don't have a lot of time, but we are in charge in this project. We did our pilot action that I will explain later. We did our participate in the action week. And we're in charge of pulling together this policy document, recommendation, how to use sport and parasport as a tool of inclusion and integration of refugees and migrants. Okay. Can we come back to the beginning? Okay. It takes time, that's why I push so many times. And all right, very quickly, the statistics. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna say something that is very important and very. I think is the picture that we have right now. So the pandemic stopped everything. Our lives, the lives of the people living in their countries, everything. So in 2020, the number of people arriving to migrants and asylum seekers arriving to Europe dropped significantly. In 2021, we saw an increase of 10% with respect of 2020. But still 33% less than in 2019. Very far from the levels of 2015 and 16. However, in 2022, according to United Nations statistics, 4 million left Ukraine since the beginning of the conflict, which is much more than the levels of the crisis of 2015 and 2016. Yet, the situation is different because the person arriving from Ukraine, they have right to education, they have right to work, liberty of movement around the European Union. So obviously the situation is different, but however, you need to think that the ongoing crisis in Syria is still a reality. The situation in Afghanistan and international statistics shows that the pandemic has created an increased level of poverty in developing countries, which means that we're gonna be facing, if we're not facing already, an unprecedented crisis in the European Union, with inflation, with the cost of the fuel in maximum. So it is a very important moment for the European Union, and we need to be very efficient and effective in every project that we organize. That's why I'm gonna just quickly mention, this is the picture, this is where we are, and this is some limitation. We need to understand that the sport are not gonna solve everything. The sport alone cannot solve the life of a person in need, a person that is arriving to Europe. So, following the FRA report, there are two special transition moments where the rise of the person, the migrants and refugees arriving to Europe are more preventable. It's more difficult for them to have a pathway to social inclusion. One is the transition between the asylum request to the resolution of this asylum request, and the second is from the childhood to the adulthood. In these two moments is where the rights of the migrants and asylum seekers are more prevented. It means this project is focusing on youth, is focusing on asylum seekers and refugees. So we're working with this population, persons that are really affected, that have a lot of barriers to have access to social inclusion and normal activities. So this report is on persons without disabilities. So we're working with persons with disabilities who have even more barriers to have access, because they don't need a house, they need an accessible house. They don't need information, they need information that is adapted to their reality and their needs and their capacities. So many aspects make persons with disabilities, and especially those refugees and asylum seekers, more vulnerable, all right? So it is very difficult. So early identification is key, first. Quicker asylum seeker resolution is key as well, to have try to have a special support for this population, especially in these situations. Obviously, centralized data collection system, like we can have information of all the refugees is very important. And also, the training of the person collecting the information is important. There are some disabilities that are easy to identify. If a person is in a wheelchair, everybody can more or less identify, oh, it's a person with a disability, but there are some other disabilities that are not that easy to identify. Okay, sorry. Can you help me go back to the... Well, this... Well, I was talking about three limitations of a sport. First was the need of the person. There are a lot of needs that needs to be assessed. So when a person comes to participate in a sport activity, you need to understand their needs. So we need to collaborate and partner with social organizations and person and professionals that are able to assess the needs of this person. Also because this person might have had traumatic experience, so we need to consider that. Second limitation is the difficulties that we have. All the partners have expressed difficulties to identify persons with disability, refugees with disabilities in their context. And the third one is the women participation. As well has been mentioned by Alice, by many of the partners. We need to take measures to at least be aware of their lack of women that have access to sport. So if we're not aware of that, it's going to be very difficult to provide solution for this community, and especially for women. So we need to be conscious of this. These are the three limitations that we have encountered while preparing the policy documentation. And therefore, it's important for all the organization to have a clear understanding of what the capacity of a sport is. And identification, women participation, okay? Can you go to the slide that we have a picture of Aliyah that is here actually? One more? This one. So also I'm very happy to have Aliyah here. She is laughing. I know this is not your best picture because of the mask and everything, but she was in the press conference of the Paralympic Games because she was the first female refugee participant on the Paralympic Games. When I was talking before about women participation, we should provide and highlight and showcase women in a powerful position representing the 12 million of persons with disabilities living as a refugee according to UNHCR. So I think it's very important to highlight and to show these examples. I want to now go to the recommendation that will be in the policy document. Tomorrow with the partners we'll have time to discuss and see if we should add some more and if we have to include any more information. But for us, there are four main elements that should be in this policy recommendation. The first one is the creation of a national response and coordinated at the European level to involve No, could you go back? To involve. So the first one is to involve refugees as part of the decision-making process. There is for me, is a very powerful statement of the movement of the right of the person with disability. Is nothing about us without us. So refugees with disabilities are part of this community, and we should not talk and on their behalf. They should be involved in all these processes. They should participate and be in all the discussions about them. Okay. Sometimes it's difficult because these persons are, well, didn't have the opportunity of a good education, even sometimes of an education. So providing tools for them to participate is also important because they've been prevented traditionally to participate in this type of decision-making forums and policy discussion. They have not been part of it. So in order for them to take advantage, or for us to take advantage of their participation, we need to provide tools to them. Also, interaction between the sport and social sectors. So I was asking before how many of you were experts on sport, parasport, disability, refugees, and inclusion. No one is an expert in everything. So we need to get together from the national government, regional government, local government, sports institutions, social institutions, education sector, because only if there is a state policy, or only if there is a clear roadmap that involves local organizations to the highest level of the countries, is the only way that we're going to find a solution, a global solution for this topic in Europe. So this is recommended, will be recommended, this is interaction. The role of organized sport, us as the International Paralympic Committee, we're not involved, we're not in contact with the refugees in the communities. We can provide guidelines, we can recommend our international federations, our national Paralympic committees to provide solution, and we can join the big alliance and the big partnership to promote the use of sport as a tool of social inclusion, but we need to involve the national federation, we need to involve the clubs. The clubs and the national federation should promote equal participation to organize sport and equal participation to national competition. If you're a refugee, in many sports you cannot participate because simply you're not allowed by the law of the country or the federation, so you cannot be part of this. So we wanna involve the organized sport as well, and maybe one before, please, the creation of a seal or a net of clubs that are operating in Europe and are friendly with refugee participation. We have had many cases where we had like a asylum seeker here in Greece, in Athens, participating and competing because of the great job of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee. When that person relocates and go to Germany or go to UK or go to any other country, we couldn't find a club for him or for her to continue to practice. We need to create a central database of organizations and clubs that are opening their doors for the participation of refugees. Not to the participation of refugees as a refugee team. We don't want that. We want to create the structure so they can be part of the sport with the local community. With a normal club, when you can compete against others, and I think this will be beneficial not only for the refugee population, but also for the host community to understand and be in contact with them. So this is what we want to create, perhaps an idea for a study too, or for a new initiative, to try to encourage clubs to be part of this net, perhaps create a seal, and also this can be linked as well to the national strategy and get funding through the creation of this net. Raise awareness at 3 levels. We need to raise awareness about all the community organizations and sport organizations to get together, to use sport as a tool of social inclusion. We need to provide, we need to raise awareness about the authorities. We need to create awareness about the population in general, but also among the refugee population, for them to know that there are opportunities for them in the sport, that they can be part and they can have an active role in the sport in their society. Some examples, well, the Paralympic refugee team, Alia participated. She was the only female. I was saying woman participation is a challenge. Well, 1 out of 6 participants in Tokyo, only one was a female. The rest were male, but they were the representative of the 12 million of refugees with disabilities, according to UNHCR statistics in 2021. When Boyan and the rest of the department were saying before, we don't find them. Yes, we don't, they are 6, there are 12 million. In 2021, there were 12 million of refugees with disabilities. The problem is that we don't find them. So that's important, and activities like this give visibility. So many refugees can watch the Paralympics on TV that were watched by 4.2 billion of persons. so they can be more active and they can get inspired and participate. Next, please. Well, we did the Steady Action Week through our social media channels that have a reach of more than 500,000 followers. We promote participation, we promote key messages of the project, as well as in our Steady Pilot Action, where we have a chat with Wisan. Those are raising awareness activities that promote the social recognition of the role that the refugees can play. I like what Wisan said in the webinar. I would say this message to European people: every refugee comes here to find peace and a job. Give them the opportunity. And look at me, I play fencing, I'm a photographer. I just want to be a citizen. So Wisan is a wheelchair fencing athlete, he's a photographer, more than a refugee. And he's what he wants to be. So his message and messages like that, I think, has a lot of value. Capacity building, at the end, this is about persons that are working with refugees in the field. Coaches, volunteers, project managers that are working in this social organization, local clubs, and are working with the refugees. These persons don't have to know about inclusion. They are coaches, they're volunteers, they're not trained, they're not prepared to face a crisis like we are, or we will be facing in Europe. Many refugees participating in the sport with a lot of needs, traumas, and different elements, and they need to have intercultural competencies, and it's very difficult. So we need to train this person. We also need to train refugees to become coaches, to become volunteers, because whenever they act and as a volunteer, as coaches, it increases the participation of the population, and also it is important to have sustainable funding. Through the creation of a national strategy, we need to have the commitment from different national organizations, national, regional, local organizations, to provide funding for activities in the area, to promote sport as a tool of social inclusion, and it is important as well to train the persons working in this local and community organization to identify those funding opportunities, and also to put forward proposals to increase the funding available, or to take advantage of the already funding available. Last, team up with other organizations. We might have resources for a specific part, for parasport in this case, like the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, that can partner with Equal Society, who is an expert in social inclusion, in evaluate projects in this type. So if we maximize the resources of each organization, at the end, this is going to be very positive for this. So the final conclusion, sport has 3 limitations. We have identified 3 limitations. Persons with disabilities, refugees with disabilities are often too invisible for us. The participation of women, we need to consider the need of the person. We need to know what the person needs before it starts a sport project. And then we promote and propose the creation of a national strategy with a coordination, a European coordination, raise awareness about the potential of the sport, provision of knowledge and capacity building to persons working for local organization. Well, to be honest, at all levels, not only for persons working in local organization and in clubs, but also decision maker and different levels of persons that will be involved in this policy. And also advance the strategy and provide tools to maximize the funding available in this area. I hope I was brief. I know I might have been very quick, but I'll be around. So if somebody's interested, they can approach me and we can have a broader discussion.
Thank you very much, Jose. This was a very interesting presentation. It was the last one of our partners, but during the process that we gone through, we have also tried to disseminate the message of Steady, but we also have come in contact with many organizations that are moving parallel to us, and we have seen many similarities. And we have today with us, and we are going to move to the next section of our conference, which is the stakeholder engagement of the study project. And we have with us today Caterina Salta, for the program manager of the International Olympic Truth Center and co-founder of Estia Football Club. She has to tell us a very interesting story of their movements and what they have done with football. And I would like to ask her to come to take the floor, and we will make a little move to prepare for the next thing, which will be the discussion with our refugee athletes.
One, two, okay. Good evening. Big thank you to Hellenic Paralympic Committee for the kind invitation. It's really a privilege and honor to be among all of you here today. I will try and I will be short, not only because all of us are tired, but secondly because I'm looking forward for the next session, the real stars of today, and not only the athletes, the refugees themselves. So a ball can change the world. IOTC, the International Olympic Truth Center that I represent here today, was established in 2000 as a joint initiative of the International Olympic Committee and the Greek government. Our mission is to promote the Olympic ideals, to serve peace and friendship, and to uphold the observance of the Olympic truce. In 2019, we founded the STFC, the first refugee and migrant women football team in Greece, and the overall aim of the project is the protection, empowerment, promotion of their social inclusion, as well as the promotion of the Olympic values and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Why football? I can spend the next 2 days speaking about this. First of all, we have to keep in mind that unfortunately, among the refugees, refugee and migrant women and girls are the last to integrate to the local societies, to their host societies. So football is a trigger, is a motivational tool for them to get out of the apartments that they just sit doing nothing, to have some fun, to provide something to themselves after the childcare and everything that they have to take care of daily, for them to get even to know the city that they live in, to interact with the locals, and so much more. Next slide, great, thank you. So by engaging refugee and migrant women and girls, and by providing to them opportunities and leadership opportunities through sport, football programs can be the vehicle for them. Sorry, COVID. I don't have COVID now, but because of my COVID before, I have a problem with breathing. Sorry. So it can be the vehicle for them to get empowered, to become empowered, to identify and claim their rights, ensuring that they positively contribute to their communities as well, to get access to everything that they need, and to actually fully participate to the processes that they're interested in. Next slide, please. So until today, and of course with the quarantine break, 65 players have been welcomed to the team from so many different countries, adult mostly, but during a summer period also we have some adults because we could weren't the barrier to their school program. Next slide, please. So our activities included 2 football training per week, as well as workshops regarding the Sustainable Development Goals. We take actions regarding specifically the SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institution. I think it's obvious why it's so connected to our team. And we participated in 9 friendly matches. We had the opportunity for them to speak out on themselves and to present their experiences in so many entities that you can see here. International and local conference, again, they had the chance to speak up for themselves and other refugee girls and women. We had many successes, mostly in international level. Many times, unfortunately, most of our players weren't able to travel because of the lack of travel documents, so just few of them were able to travel, and the rest of the players were volunteers representing them. It was really popular, especially back in 2019, so many media from all around the world came to cover the team. And we collaborate with the Hellenic Football Federation, providing them opportunities to create sport football events also for their children, to attend matches, official matches of the national Greek team, and so on. These are some of their quotes. So this vulnerable, but at the same time powerful women are inspiring ambassadors of a new paradigm in sports, social inclusion, and women's empowerment. Through their life stories and actions, they give a strong message to women and girls worldwide who share same challenges and dreams. They give a strong message of courage and hope. Next slide, please. Let's proceed. Next slide. We don't have time for video today. Some photos indicative of what we have experienced, and we have experienced so many things in these 3 years, regardless the COVID situation. This was the first international conference, tournament that we were the winners, and this was very important for them to get even more empowered, but also to bring the lights to the teams of them to, again, to be able to speak up for the refugee women's rights. And some more. Let's proceed, just some photos. I would like to conclude with this. Sport is a language of its own, and football culture relies on people like the players of STFC coming together to realize its full impact through sports, through football. And that's it from me. Thank you. I try to be short.
Thank you.
And
we come to our final section of our conference today. We have a round table, and I would like to ask Alia Issa to come forward to sit with us. We're going to have a very quick discussion. With us today is also Zainab Shadashoar. Please come also in front of us. She's a football player. And we have also with us Ahmed Nadim, who has come from Volos to us. Come have a seat. We will sit on this session. So, we will do this session in Greek because our athletes speak mostly Greek, and I will try to give a short translation. So we have 3 athletes today, and we are going to show you some images and videos about them. But we want to discuss also with them what Jose also said, that we want to have their opinion. We want to know what they are thinking about how they can be included through Paralympic sport into society. So I have 3 main questions that I want to ask them. I want to begin with the main question, how did you start? Πώς ξεκινήσατε στον αθλητισμό? Πώς ξεκινήσατε να κάνετε παραλυμπιακό αθλητισμό? Θέλετε να ξεκινήσουμε, Αλία?
Όταν πήγαινα στο ειδικό γυμνάσιο ηλίου, είχα το γυμναστή, τον κύριο Μιχάλη Νικόπουλο, και αυτός με βοήθησε να γίνω μια αθλήτρια. Εγώ ξεκίνησα από το μπότσια και σιγά σιγά πήγα στο στίβο και έτσι κατάληξα στην Κορίνα και πήγα στους Παραλυμπιακούς Αγώνες στο Τόκιο.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ την Αλία. Για μας ήταν μια μοναδική στιγμή αυτή που κατάφερε να πάει στους Παραλυμπιακούς Αγώνες. Alia said that she started out through a sport club with her coach, Michalis Nikopoulos, and through the sport club that she started to train boccia and then athletics. And she continuously training. She managed to reach the Paralympic Games in Tokyo, which was a unique experience. Να ρωτήσουμε και την Zainab. Πώς ξεκίνησες να κάνεις αθλητισμό και τι σημαίνει αυτό για σένα?
Στα αγγλικά ή ελληνικά?
Στα ελληνικά.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So how I started playing football with Stia. It was started from a post in Facebook. I found them on Facebook, so I contacted Katerina and asked her how I can join them. And that was how I started. More explanation? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. So. No, it wasn't difficult for me to reach out to them. It was easy. So I went there at the first practice that they had, and I met the team. They welcomed me very warmly, and it was a surprise for me because I was new, and that was it was for me a great experience to start with them, being among them, and playing with them.
Perfect. Maybe Katerina can also say a few words. Να μεταφράσω λίγο για όσους, για να είμαστε λίγο συνεχείς όσον αφορά το κομμάτι των ελληνικών. Ζενάπ είπε ότι ξεκίνησε να ψάχνει ουσιαστικά για να παίξει ποδόσφαιρο και το είδε μέσα από το Facebook, μέσα από τα κοινωνικά δίκτυα. Και ήρθε σε επαφή, επικοινώνησε και ιδιαίτερα οι πρώτες εμπειρίες της ήταν ιδιαίτερα θετικές, γιατί υπήρχε πολύ θετική ανταπόκριση και μέσα στην ομάδα. Οπότε, Κατερίνα, τι πιστεύεις εσύ, τι είναι αυτό που μπορεί να φέρει εύκολα τους ανθρώπους, πώς τους παρακινείς για να ξεκινήσουν να κάνουν αθλητισμό?
Καταρχάς, να αναφέρω ότι η Ζεϊνάμπ είναι έχουμε πολλά άλλα παραδείγματα, αλλά έχουμε την τύχη να την έχουμε σήμερα μαζί μας εδώ, να μπορεί να εκφράσει ίδια την εμπειρία της. Όταν ήρθε στην ομάδα, μίλαγε μέτρια αγγλικά και καθόλου ελληνικά. Παίρνοντας αυτή την απαραίτητη ενδυνάμωση στην οποία αναφερόμαστε όλοι μέσα από την ομάδα, σύντομα ξεκίνησε εντατικά μαθήματα και ελληνικών και αγγλικών. Λίγο αργότερα έστειλε αίτηση για υποτροφία στο κολέγιο Άλμπα, κατάφερε να την πάρει και με πολύ πολύ περηφάνεια εκφράζω κάθε φορά, τον Ιανουάριο αποφοίτησε. Πήρε λοιπόν το μεταπτυχιακό της από το Άλμπα. Είναι μία από τις πολύ λαμπρές και έχουμε πολλά λαμπρά κορίτσια μες στην ομάδα που έχουν καταφέρει πάρα πολλά. Το μόνο που χρειάζονται είναι κάποιον να σταθεί δίπλα τους, να τις βοηθήσει, να τις πουσάρει, αν θέλετε, να ξανασταθούν στα πόδια τους. Όλα τα άλλα, εξ αρχής, έτσι κι αλλιώς, θα τα καταφέρουν μόνες τους, είναι λαμπρές.
Θες να το πεις και στα αγγλικά τώρα αυτό?
Yeah, sure, of course. We have great examples of the impact of sports, of football in our case, from STFC, and we have the great pleasure, of course, to have Zeynab here with us today. When she joined us back in July 2019, her English was moderate, and her Greek was nothing at all, but soon enough, because of the necessary empowerment that all of us we express that sport can provide to us, she started learning both languages, Greek and English, very intensively. In such a short period, she managed her level of both languages to go high like that. She applied for a scholarship to one of the biggest and best private colleges in Greece. She managed to get it, and she graduated this January. So this is a great example, not the only one of the impact of sport. And of course, all these great athletes that we're talking about, they will achieve everything because they have all these skills and these dreams and goals inside them. The only thing that they need is such programs, sport for development programs in our cases, for us to be next to them, to empower them and stand by them until they are able to stand up on their feet alone.
Πολύ ωραία, και έχουμε μαζί μας και τον Αχμέτ Ναντίμ, ο οποίος είναι αθλητής που έχει έρθει από το Βόλο, έχει ενισχυθεί εδώ και αρκετό διάστημα από την Παραλυμπιακή Επιτροπή. Θέλουμε, Αχμέτ, να μας πεις λίγο και εσύ πώς ξεκίνησες τον αθλητισμό, πόσο σημαντικό είναι για σένα και ποια ήταν η πιο δυνατή στιγμή μέχρι στιγμής στον αθλητισμό που έχεις ζήσει.
Hello everyone. Πριν περίπου 5 χρόνια ξεκίνησα αθλητισμό. Απλά ήθελα από μικρό παιδί. Μου δόθηκε ευκαιρία. Γραφτήκα σε ένα σωματείο στο Βόλο, στο γυμναστικό Βόλο. Άρχισα να κάνω προπονήσεις με τους αρτιμελείς. Μετά από περίπου 2 χρόνια γράφτηκα σε άλλο ένα σύλλογο, σε ένα σωματείο αργοναύτες Βόλου ΑΜΕΑ, όποιοι επικοινωνήσανε με την Παραολυμπιακή, με τον κύριο Βασίλη πρώτη φορά που συναντηθήκαμε και κατέβηκα πρώτη φορά στην Αθήνα, στο Πανελλήνιο 2018. Ήταν η πρώτη φορά που είχα κατέβει και ήταν μια πάρα πολύ δυνατή στιγμή, συγκινήθηκα πάρα πολύ. Είχα τρέξει 400 και προσπαθώ να πιάσω τα όρια να κατέβω τους Παραολυμπιακούς. Και πέρσι έκανα ένα ατομικό ρεκόρ που το ήθελα πάρα πολύ και προσπάθω να καταφέρω αυτό που θέλω.
Ωραία, ίσως μπορεί και ο Βασίλης να μας πει πόσο δύσκολο είναι να προσεγγίσει άτομα πρόσφυγες με αναπηρία για να μπορούν να κάνουν αθλητισμό, να ενσωματωθούν σε αυτό.
Εγώ θα ήθελα να πω κάτι άλλο βασικά. Και ο λόγος που κάθισα εδώ δεν ήταν για να απαντήσω μόνο σε αυτά, γιατί αυτά είναι η ιστορία. Δηλαδή, βρήκαμε τρόπους να προσεγγίσουμε πρόσφυγες με αναπηρία, βρήκαμε τρόπους να φτιάξουμε κανάλια επικοινωνίας, να συνεργαστούμε με ομοσπονδίες, να συνεργαστούμε με δήμους, να συνεργαστούμε με διάφορα πράγματα.
Και είναι και οι περισσότεροι εδώ σήμερα. Έχουν έρθει πάρα πολλοί εκπρόσωποι από σωματεία και τους ευχαριστώ που είναι εδώ.
Ναι.
Από την Ομοσπονδία, από φορείς, και αυτό μας βοηθάει και εμάς να μπορούμε να προχωρήσουμε.
Αυτό που θέλω να κάτσω και να πω εδώ είναι το εξής. Την Κυριακή ήμουνα στην Κρήτη για ένα Παραλυμπικό πρωτάθλημα, για μια ημερίδα στίβου και ήταν η Αλία εκεί πέρα. Και πληροφορήθηκα από την Αλία ότι ετοιμάζεται να φύγει μάλλον με την οικογένειά της, να πάει μάλλον Νορβηγία, μάλλον Γερμανία. Και μου λέει, θα με βοηθήσετε εκεί πέρα που θα πάω να γίνει κάτι. Και η πρώτη μου σκέψη ήταν, να μιλήσουμε με τις Παραλυμπιακές Επιτροπές εκεί και να πούμε. Και μετά, αντανακλαστικά, ένιωσα ένα σοκ. Και ένιωσα ένα σοκ γιατί λέω, γιατί δεν χρειάζεται βοήθεια η Αλία τώρα. Η Αλία ήταν η πρώτη γυναίκα πρόσφυγας που πήρε μέρος στους Παραλυμπιακούς Αγώνες. Είχε τα φόρα της δημοσιότητας από την IPC και από όλο τον κόσμο, από την ύπατη αρμοστία του ΟΗΕ για το χρόνο προετοιμασίας και να φτάσει εκεί πέρα. Και τώρα νιώθει ότι θα πάω κάπου αλλού και σκέφτηκα, θα έπρεπε με τόση δημοσιότητα που έχει πάρει, με τέτοιο ρόλο που έχει παίξει κοινωνικό παγκοσμίως, να την περιμένουν και να της πούν αυτοί εδώ, να σε χρησιμοποιήσουμε σε εισαγωγικά εσένα για να προβάλλουμε αυτό που κάνουμε. Και λέω γαμώτο, αυτό που κάναμε τόσα χρόνια τώρα, πάλι στο ίδιο σημείο είμαστε. Και I'm going to translate that now, because we have partners here from International Paralympic Committee and from other NPCs. I just said that last week I was in Crete for a para-athletics meeting, and then Alia was there, and I met her there, and she told me that, my family is considering to move to Norway or to Germany. And the next thing she asked me was, will you be able to help me when I go there? And my first reaction was like, okay, let's contact NPC Germany, IPC, NPC Norway, if she goes. And then my second thought was, why? Why should we ask for help for Alia now? Alia has been an ambassador, a global personality through the role that she played in the Paralympic Games in Tokyo. And still she has these insecure feelings about what's going to happen to me when I go there. Instead of being so proud and so, let's say, strong, but now that I have played this role, people should be there waiting to, not to help me, but to cooperate with me in order to disseminate what we have done all these years. And for a moment I thought like, what have we done since 2017? Why am I having this fear now? So this is a shit for thought, what I'm sharing with you now, and that's the reason that I sat here. I didn't want to say anything more about how we created these projects, how did we find the athletes, how did we find the partners, but why?
Yes, that's a good question, and it's good that this has been said. We have still a long way to go. Maybe a last question to the women that we have in our panel. We need more participation of women. Θέλουμε περισσότερη συμμετοχή γυναικών γενικώ στον αθλητισμό. Τι πιστεύετε εσύ, Αλία και Ζενάπ, τι πρέπει να γίνει για να μπορέσουν να έρθουν περισσότερες γυναίκες στον αθλητισμό και από τον προσφυγικό πληθυσμό και γενικώς? Και ποια είναι η δικιά σας εμπειρία?
Η δικιά μου εμπειρία μου άρεσε πάρα πολύ στον Τόκιο. Δεν είχα ζήσει ξανά τέτοια εμπειρία στη ζωή μου και δεν το σκεφτόμουν ποτέ στη ζωή μου ότι θα έρθει μια μέρα να πάω στους Παραλυμπιακούς Αγώνες. Και θα πω γενικά στους γυναίκες και στους πρόσφυγες, αλλά και γενικά, να κάνουν αθλητισμό, γιατί ο αθλητισμός βοηθάει πάρα πολύ και στη ψυχολογία και στο σώμα. Εμένα γενικά με έχει βοηθήσει πάρα πολύ ο αθλητισμός.
Ευχαριστούμε, Alia. She said, I asked her about what is important to have more women and participate in Paralympic sport and generally in sport. And what Alia said that for her, it was a unique experience. She encourages every woman to do sports. She felt through what she has lived going to the Paralympic Games, experience that she never imagined that she would experience. So that is why she sends a very strong encouragement to all women to participate in sport. Zainab, what do you say?
Yeah, actually I think it is important for women to participate in such activities, but we should consider their situation, because refugee women, they are coming from some countries that they don't have, most of them, they don't have such a freedom to make decision for their daily activities to participate in sport. So most of them, they are not aware of the freedom that they can have here in these countries. And secondly, many of them, so they are busy with the householding and their children. So they need some help in those aspects as well. And because, okay, they are worried if I leave my children at home, who is gonna take care of them? So that's important, so to take in consideration. And another one is, the lack of language knowledge. So most of them, they don't have the opportunity to learn the languages, so to overcome these barriers. Okay, I had some privilege. I was educated back there in my country, and I knew some sort of English, so I could use that to reach out to STIA, but many women, they don't. So, and many of them, they are living in camps that are not in city center, and they don't have access to these kind of activities. So I think it's important to spread word out and to reach out to them and find out how we can help them to have access to a sport or any kind of activities that can help them to find their way, in this new country and to establish their life here.
All right, thank you. Και για να το πω και στα ελληνικά, με μια σύντομη μετάφραση, δεν να πείτε ότι οι γυναίκες έχουν ιδιαίτερες δυσκολίες να μπορέσουν να συμμετάσχουν στον αθλητισμό. Πολλές φορές δεν έχουν την επιλογή, είτε λόγω του οικογενειακού περιβάλλοντος, είτε λόγω της συνθήκης στην οποία ζουν, να μπορούν να επιλέξουν να πάνε να κάνουν αθλητισμό, είτε λόγω και των πραγματικών καταστάσεων, επειδή μπορεί να έχουν παιδιά, οικογένεια, να μην μπορούν να έχουν την άνεση να αφήσουν τα παιδιά μόνα τους για να μπορούν να φύγουν να κάνουν αθλητισμό. Οπότε είναι πάρα πολλοί παράγοντες που παίζουν ρόλο, ακόμα και το γεγονός ότι πολλά από τα κάμπ των προσφύγων δεν είναι καν κοντά στο κέντρο της πόλης και για να μπορείς να φτάσεις σε κάποια αθλητική επιλογή είναι πάρα πολύ δύσκολο ή αδύνατο. Οπότε υπάρχουν πάρα πολλές δυσκολίες που πρέπει να αντιμετωπιστούν για να μπορούν οι γυναίκες να συμμετάσχουν στον αθλητισμό.
Μπορούσα ένα πολύ σύντομο σχόλιο σε αυτό. Ένα πολύ λοιπόν σύντομο σχόλιο σε αυτό είναι δύο πράγματα. Νούμερο ένα, πρέπει να εμπλέκουμε το περιβάλλον τους, το οικογενειακό τους περιβάλλον, να τους ενημερώνουμε για τα ωφέλη του αθλητισμού και πώς μπορεί να βοηθηθεί, να υποστηριχθεί το κορίτσι τους, η κόρη τους ή η σύζυγός τους ή οτιδήποτε μέσα από τον αθλητισμό. Ακόμα και κάνοντας επισκέψεις, δηλαδή κανονικά κατευθείαν στην κοινότητα, εάν μπορούμε σε αυτό να χρησιμοποιήσουμε γυναίκες πρότυπα, όπως είναι η Ζεϊνά, παραδείγματος χάρη δίπλα μου, είναι ακόμα πιο σημαντικό, γιατί από ένα άτομο της δικής τους κουλτούρας θα το αντιληφθούν πολύ καλύτερα και θα πιστούν πολύ καλύτερα. Και φυσικά το δεύτερο είναι αυτό που, όλα αυτά που ανέφερε η Ζεϊνά, άρα δημιουργώντας ένα τέτοιο πρόγραμμα θα πρέπει να έχουμε επιλύσει αυτά τα προβλήματα. Το που θα αφήσει μια μητέρα τα παιδιά της, το να είναι εύκολα προσβάσιμο το πρόγραμμα εκεί που θα το έχουμε κτλ. So shortly, two things. It's very crucial to engage their environment, their family, their community. So even if possible, to visit directly them and to inform them the benefits of sports for their daughters, their wives, lives, etc. If we can do this, if we can approach them directly through role models like Zainab next to me, that would be even better. They could relate much better to a person, to a woman of their own culture than a European one, for example. And secondly, of course, it's really important to have in mind all these barriers that Zainab already expressed, and while designing, for example, a sports program for refugees, to take care, to have in mind if we can provide them childcare, if the venue of the trainings, activities, sport activities is easily accessible, etc., etc. Thank you.
Okay. We're closing this session with some remarks from our Vice President, Thanasis Tsivilis. I want you to stay here because we are going to do a final photo once we're finished on stage. So θα σας παρακαλώ να μείνετε λίγο κοντά μας για να βγάλουμε μια τελική φωτογραφία μόλις τελειώσουμε. Κλείνει την παρουσίασή μας. Ναι, σας ενημερώνω ότι μόλις τελειώσουμε έχουν καφέ απ' έξω και ένα σάντουιτς για να μπορείτε να... το πηδήξαμε το διάλειμμα να το κάνουμε αμέσως μετά. Θανάση, έχεις το λόγο και μην φύγετε για να βγάλουμε μια φωτογραφία στο τέλος.
Καλησπέρα σας. Δεν ήταν στο πρόγραμμα να μιλήσω, απλά θα σας πω γιατί πήρα το λόγο. Είμαι ο Θανάσης Τσιβίλης, πρώτος αντιπρόεδρος της Παραλυμπιακής Επιτροπής και από τους πρωτεργάτες του παραλυμπιακού αθλητισμού στη χώρα μας. Γιατί τώρα πήρα το μικρόφωνο. Ταράχτηκα, πιστέψτε με, ταράχτηκα πάρα πολύ με αυτό που άκουσα πριν από λίγο από τον Βασίλη, ότι σήμερα, παρένθεση, εμένα η πρώτη μου παραλυμπιακή αγώνιση το 1996 στην Ατλάντα. Σήμερα, 2022, αυτή η κούκλα, πρωταθλήτρια που πήγε στο Τόκιο, που βραβεύτηκε, ήταν η πρώτη πρωταθλήτρια πρόσφυγας στους αγώνες, βραβεύτηκε από την Παγκόσμια Ομοσπονδία, από τον ΟΗΕ κτλ. Όπως ακούσαμε, και να θέλει διαπιστευτήρια και πρόσκληση και ιδιαίτερες προσπάθειες να πάει σε μια χώρα. Γιατί? Μα γιατί? Γιατί οι πρωταθλητές, οι παραολυμπιονίκες, να αναγνωριζόμαστε μόνο την περίοδο που είναι οι αγώνες? Ήταν εδώ εκλεκτοί προσκεκλημένοι από τη Βουλγαρία, από την Τσεχία, από την Ιταλία, από την Ισπανία κτλ. Τα είπανε άψογα. Άψογα. Πολύ ωραία. Στις χώρες μας. Γιατί εμείς να μην έχουμε παρουσία κάθε μέρα? Παντού. Μα παντού. Γιατί, ποιος ο λόγος? Δηλαδή, εμείς είμαστε δοξασμένοι μόνο ένα χρονικό διάστημα που είναι οι αγώνες. Ποιος μας αναγνωρίζει μετά? Στην καθημερινότητα. Τόσο πίσω δηλαδή. Μα γιατί? Ας τολμήσουμε λοιπόν όλοι μας στις χώρες μας, υπάρχουν τρόποι, απλά θέλει νοοτροπία, θέλει αλλαγή νοοτροπίας. Να βγούμε από εκεί που είμαστε, έτσι, όπως καλή ώρα που εμείς κάνουμε φέτος εδώ στη χώρα μας παρολυμπιακά πανοράματα, να μας γνωρίσουν. Όχι να βγάλουμε ευαισθητοποίηση, ακούω αυτή τη λέξη και τρελαίνομαι αρνητικά. Όχι, να μας αναγνωρίσουν. Αυτή η κούκλα θέλει ευαισθητοποίηση για να πάει όπου θέλει. Να αναγνωρίσω τι είναι, πώς βραβεύεται. Δεν βραβεύεται κανένας από ευαισθησία. Βραβεύεται για αυτό που καταφέρνει. Μα γιατί να υπάρχει αυτό? Συγχωρέστε μου την ένταση, αλλά θέλω, το ξέρω, το μπορούμε, το αξίζουμε, έτσι, να φύγουμε από το παρασκήνιο και να πρωταγωνιστούμε. με ίσα δικαιώματα, με ίσες υποχρεώσεις. Εντάξει, ναι, το λέμε όλοι, ίσοι είμαστε, διαφορετικοί. Πολύ ωραία. Αυτό δεν είναι όμως να μπούμε στο περιθώριο. Μπορούμε λοιπόν ο καθένας μας στις χώρες που βρισκόμαστε, εντάξει, να αναγνωρίσουμε το μεγαλείο, αθλητικό ιδεώδες πρεσβεύουμε κι εμείς, έτσι, με τις αξίες του αθλητισμού και να μπορούμε και ταξίζουμε να είμαστε στην κοινωνία σε κορυφή. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you, Thanas. Thanas lined out that he was shocked to hear that an athlete like Alia, if she wants to go to another country like Norway, needs credentials in order for her to find ways to start to train there and to do sports. So what he is lining out and saying is that Paralympians and generally Paralympic athletes should not be remembered only during the Paralympic Games, because Alia was honored by the United Nations, by the IPC, for participating in the Paralympic Games. But she is not considered something important if she wants to do sports in another country. So what we should do is find the ways to change attitudes so that society acknowledges Paralympians and Paralympic athletes all year round and gives them opportunities to participate. They should not be excluded the most time of the year and only if there's the Paralympics or a large sport competition being able to receive acknowledgement. So this is very important for him, that we should work towards changing these attitudes. All the participants from the different countries should work towards this goal, and it's very important to change the attitude of society so that they can acknowledge all these athletes and the attempts that they are making. So I would like to now to close this session. I would like to invite you all to come forward to the stage so we can take a picture together, all partners, all participants in our study conference. The spectators too, please come forward. Ελάτε όλοι. Partners είστε και από τη Γενική Γραμματεία Αθλητισμού και από τα Σωματεία. Λεωνίδα, έλα κοντά μας. Ελάτε, Ελένη, Γιώτα, ελάτε μπροστά. Χρυσούλα, Θατή. Κάνε άλλη μια χαιρετήσιμη. Hands up, χαιρετία,